Hi, so in today's episode, this is going to be like the first official full length episode. I wanted to talk about my backstory with dogs and my fear of dogs because, believe it or not, I used to have a very, very real fear of dogs. And so I just wanted to share what happened with that. And obviously, I have a dog now and I love dogs. They're like one of my favorite things ever, one of my favorite animals ever. So, it's like might be a bit surprising, but I did have a very big fear of dogs. So, hopefully, this will just kind of show you that if you have a fear of dogs, a lot of people don't, but if you do, you can get over your fear too and love dogs. And it is pretty easy, but also hard at the same time. So I will just be sharing my tips and advice and my story and how I got over my fear. Just a little disclaimer, I just want to say that I'm not a professional. I think that's pretty obvious, but this is not like professional advice, it's not medical advice. And this is just my personal story and the things that I learned that I think are really useful, but just do with that as you will. So let's go ahead and just jump straight in to this first section that I just want to talk about. Why are people afraid of dogs in the first place? So this phobia actually has a name. It's officially called cynophobia, which basically just means a fear of dogs. And why do people have this fear of dogs? For you, it might be different, but here are just some general reasons why. So, of course, negative experiences with dogs. So, like, if you were chased once, maybe as a child, if you were bitten or something like that, that can obviously contribute to a fear of that. Also, family history matters. Like, maybe if your mom or your grandma or your dad or your grandpa had a phobia, that can go down the line genetically. So, that might be genetics might influence it. And of course, we are all familiar with influencers and the media and everything like that. So you might have been influenced by that or what you saw on the internet. Maybe you saw a video of a very ferocious looking dog, or you see stories about people being bitten, stuff like that. And I just want to tell you that a lot of these negative things that you see on social media, they're like scary, right? And you're like, oh my goodness, I should be afraid of dogs or something. But you only ever see stories that are bad or that are kind of negative, because those are the sort of breaking news things. Those are the things that are interesting and that people want to see because they don't happen often. And that's the key thing, is that these are very rare occurrences. And because they're rare, that's why you see them on the media, because they are so rare. So that's why people upload them, and because they get a lot of views and people just want to hear about this sort of thing. So just keep that in mind, that a lot of these things are very rare, and most dogs do not bite. They are not ferocious. In general, dogs are very loving animals, and if they are trained well, they are just the sweetest things ever. Even if they are not trained, they're usually still super, super sweet, and they just do not bite. That is not in their nature as domestic dogs. So, also not being around dogs may also just make you uncomfortable. Like, if you've just never saw something, if you've never been around something, that can just kind of make you feel uncomfortable because you just have no experience with that thing, so you don't really know what to expect. Now, for symptoms of this phobia, you might have different ones. This is just sort of the general things, and this is what I also felt. So a lot of them can be dizziness, sweating, like excessive sweating on your palms. I think that's pretty common. A feeling of dread. I know I had that. So, when you see like a dog, you just get this feeling of dread and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And this panic sort of takes over your head. Increased heartbeat, of course, like your heart starts racing. I think that's very common. These are pretty much all symptoms that you will see in a lot of phobias. There's like a whole like list of this, and there's more specific ones too, but I'm not gonna get into medical details or anything like that. This is just like my personal advice and also some stuff that I researched as well. It's not professional advice, again, like I already did a disclaimer about this, but just a reminder again. And there are many things you can do to help with these symptoms or to explore ways to get rid of them, or pretty much just get over your fear of dogs. And there's like so many different medical ways to do it, and you can go see a doctor, you can go see a professional. So if you want to kind of explore those ways, or just have some like more in-depth details, sort of more medically or on the more professional side, a site I suggest is Cleveland Clinic, and they have like a whole section on cynophobia, so you can go check that out if you would like. Really recommend that. That's where I got some facts from too, some research that I did. So let's talk about my personal symptoms and how I felt. I had a fear of dogs for a very long time. I was not actually afraid of dogs when I was very young, like I would say like a toddler of 5, because I remember going up to dogs and like trying to hug them and stuff. I don't know where it originated from because I loved dogs when I was younger. And then sometime when I grew up, I would say when I sort of started going to school and stuff like that, I just was very scared of dogs. I have no idea why, because I don't really remember being chased by anything or any dogs or anything. But somehow I just kind of developed a fear. I feel I was just never exposed to dogs much. Like nobody in my family has a dog, not even my extended family. So I was just never around dogs. And I feel like maybe it kind of was uncomfortable for me because whenever I would see a dog, I'm like, I just did not know what to expect. So this kind of went on until I want to say I was in middle school. I'm not like exactly sure on the timeline or anything, but I want to say it was when I was in middle school, and I always had a very entrepreneur type of spirit. So I would always start businesses, and I would be the kid with like the lemonade stand or whatever other stand I decided to do with my friend. And one summer we were like, oh my gosh, let's sell dog treats, because I believe she recently got a new puppy. And so we were like, oh my gosh, let's create some dog treats and sell them, because we were trying to get some money like every like 12-year-old wants, right? So we decided to start this dog treat business. And keep in mind, like I was very scared of dogs. So whenever I would go over to her house, I would be so scared. And every time her dog would be there, they had to actually keep their dog upstairs when I was there because I was so scared. And whenever the dog actually came downstairs, I was like, oh my God. I was like in fight or flight mode. I was like, oh my God, where can I go? What elevated surface can I jump on? I can't. This is so scary. Anyways, so I was really scared. But for some reason, I don't even know why I wanted to do dog treats. I think I just like liked that idea, and I thought it would be a popular business model, because listen, when I was 12 years old, I cared more about money than my fear. I was like, I'm gonna sell these dog treats, and if I have to interact with dogs, I'm gonna do it to make some money. So I feel like that was very good motivator. I feel like when you want to overcome a fear, you need some sort of motivation, or it's something that is more important to you than that fear. So basically, we started creating these dog treats, and we were making them, and then we set up a little stand outside and we were selling them because there's a lot of dog owners in our neighborhood. So they would walk by and they would be like, oh, and they would see we're 12-year-olds, so they're like, oh, let me go get some cash, or let me buy one of these, or can I come back later, or something like that, right? So they would buy some, and what we did was we had orders. So they would order some, like how many they wanted, what flavor, and then we would make them, and then we would deliver them to their house, because this was a neighborhood type of situation. So we ended up getting a few orders. So we would go and we would make these dog treats. I think it was like flour, egg, peanut butter, or whatever flavor, like turkey, and or water too, probably, and we would just bake them. So probably like not the healthiest, but the dogs really liked them. What can I say? So we also tested it out on her dog. So we made the dog treats, and then it was time to deliver them. And so this was where I was like, okay, I'm like a little nervous, but the dogs aren't like, they're in the house, right? It's fine. So the first ones I believe we made were for these small dogs, which, since they're small, I think at that point, just seeing dogs like come past our stand, I was like, okay, I was slowly kind of easing into it. I was slowly getting used to dogs being in a little closer proximity to me, but I was still too scared to kind of like go out and touch them. Although I think I did pet some small dogs because I was like, they're on a leash, like it's fine. So I kind of started slowly petting the dogs and kind of easing myself into this. I feel like I was definitely more scared of the larger dogs. That was where I was really scared, especially if they were off leash. That was where I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go run somewhere, right? I need to get away from this. So we went and we delivered the dog treats to the small dogs, and the small dogs are actually really cute. And I remember I was like, oh wow, like I really wanted to pet them, and I was like, wait, maybe my fear is kind of starting to go away. So they ran up and I kind of saw that they were like really harmless and they didn't do anything. They just sniffed me. And all it really took was for me to kind of put my hand out, pet them, and then I think something in my brain clicked and I was like, okay, these dogs are not gonna hurt me. They're not gonna do anything. They're not gonna bite me. Nothing is gonna happen because I just went out and I just pet the dog and I just kind of interacted with them. And I think that definitely helped so much with my fear. So that was the small dogs, right? But I feel like small dogs are definitely less scary. Let me just say that Chihuahuas can be a little scary. Some dogs actually bark more than big dogs, the small ones. So, some of them can be a little scary. But for the most part, I feel like small dogs are less intimidating than bigger dogs. It might be easier to kind of start off with petting those and interacting with those. So, anyways, I need to continue on. I kind of got sidetracked. But we delivered those, and at that point, I was kind of getting definitely a little more comfortable with smaller dogs. I wanted to pet them, and it was starting to be something that was fun for me, and I was like, I actually like these dogs and I want to pet them. So kind of creating that positive experience with these dogs and me thinking that it's a really good thing definitely started helping because I wanted to pet them, which if you want to pet them, you probably have no fear, right? But I was still very scared of big dogs. I was still very cautious around them. And it just really scared me, especially when they were off leash. So then we had another order for this. I think it was an Australian Shepherd. So I love Australian Shepherds, by the way. That's like a whole different topic, but they're so, so pretty. And their eyes are just like gorgeous. And their fur color is so gorgeous. I love them so much. But, anyways, they're a bigger dog. They're not even like the biggest breeds there are, but like they count as like a big dog, right? So we got an order for one and we packaged it up. And I remember going in the evening, we were gonna go deliver it. And the dog was like obviously really excited, like all dogs are whenever you ring the doorbell. And I was like, okay, we're just gonna hand it over. But guess what? The dog ran out. And I think I was standing a little behind my friend because my friend obviously loves dogs and stuff. She grew up with a dog, but I was kind of standing a little bit. I think I was maybe not even on the porch. I was kind of just waiting because I was a little scared. But the dog ran out and it ran out to me. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. But I kind of forced myself into calm and I was like, no, I'm going to stand here and the dog isn't going to do anything. I'm just going to stand there and I'm not going to run because there's nowhere to run to. Because dogs will start to chase you if you run away from them. They can sense that you're scared. And if you run, they're going to be like, oh, why is she running? Let me go run after her. It's not necessarily they want to bite you or chase you, but it's kind of like if you run, they're like, oh, I need to also run. Because they tend to copy humans. So I was like, I'm just going to stand my ground. It's fine. And the dog kind of didn't even really say hi to me. It kind of honestly ignored me, kind of sniffed me, and then just sort of went back. And I was like, oh my gosh, my heart was pounding furiously, but I was fine. And I was like, wait, this wasn't that bad. And so this experience was kind of, I think, the big step into getting over my fear was just this big dog running out and me standing my ground and me not moving and the dog not doing anything. The dog didn't even jump on me. And I was like, oh, so this is fine. And then I guess something in my brain was like, you have no reason to be scared. I was still very cautious, but honestly, that experience sort of got over or got rid of like 80% of my fear of dogs. I would still get kind of cautious and scared when a dog would run toward me or a dog would start barking at me because those are instincts that are very difficult to get rid of, especially if they've been kind of drilled into you over the course of years. But that experience and that dog just running out not doing anything was just something that kind of made that connection in my brain that I have no reason to fear and this was just irrational because it is pretty much an irrational fear, but it can seem very rational to you in your brain. So yeah, that was pretty much how I want to say I got over my fear of dogs, was just to interact with them and just face my fear head on. And I know the saying face your fears, right? Everyone hears that. But the way that it is so true, and I feel a lot of people know that you need to face your fears for phobias, but a lot of people are scared to do it because you have this very real phobia and you're like, I do not think I can ever face my fear. Like for me, I still have a fear of spiders. And there is just no way on earth that I'm gonna go and hold a spider in my hand. That is a barrier, a mental barrier I am not ready to break yet. So, my advice is do it when you're ready, right? You don't want to push yourself so hard to the point where it's just a really bad experience for you because you're just going to make things worse, right? Don't pressure yourself too much. But my advice is to have a motivation behind it. Think about your reason of why you want to get rid of your fear of dogs and have something bigger motivating you than your fear. So, something that you want more than your fear. So, something that will kind of motivate you to go and take those first steps in getting rid of your fear of dogs. So that's pretty much my advice. Just go straight into it. Just go start interacting with dogs. You can go to dog park, but I feel like that might be a little overwhelming at first. So what I suggest is if you have a family or a family member or a friend or somebody, or even if you're just walking in the park and there's a dog on a leash, ask maybe if you can pet the dog. Always ask for, of course, but don't be offended if they say no, because some dogs, you shouldn't pet them. But if they say yes, just pet the dog and just kind of go against your instinct to run, which I know is very kind of counterintuitive. And that's like, I feel like the only situation where I would say go against your instinct, because you always want to listen to your instinct and you always want to listen to your gut. But in the case of phobias, if it really is harmless and you know it's harmless, petting a dog, just petting a small dog at first. You don't even have to go big. You can pet a small dog. It will start to make that connection in your brain that, oh, this is something that's very harmless. This is actually fun to do. This is cute. And I want to do this. And this is fun and it's not going to hurt me. And that can be very valuable in getting over your fear of dogs. So just start small. Don't pressure yourself too much, but be like, let me go and pet a dog. I think it'd be fun. Like, look, oh, kind of talk to yourself, be like, oh, this dog is so cute. I really want to go pet it. And just pet it. Just don't think about it. Just pet it and just do it, because that is the hardest step, is just to do it. You just have to do it. You have to go straight into it and you have to pet the dog. And then once you do, it's going to get so much easier. And then occasionally when you see a dog, you can pet more dogs and then you're going to get more used to it. And then you're going to really realize that this is an irrational fear, and your brain is going to tell you, and your brain is going to realize that there is no reason to be afraid. And then hopefully all of your symptoms will start to go away. Then you can start petting bigger dogs. Then you can go to a dog park and you can just pet some dogs, or even go to an adoption center. Another great thing you could do is volunteer. So many different adoption places need volunteers and things like that. So volunteering can actually help you so much because you have that motivator of helping dogs. And since you have to be around dogs, you're going to get over that fear. Again, it's all about exposure and training yourself and training your brain that this is not something to fear and that this is an irrational fear. Of course, there are instances where you should fear, like if it's a very feral dog or maybe a very untrained dog that does bite. I'm not trying to say this to scare anyone off, but like, the guard dogs or something like that, if like it's genuinely concerning, maybe you should consider like jumping up on somewhere. Don't run, because that's just gonna motivate them. But of course, there are those instances where it's okay to be afraid. But in general, for domestic dogs that are just walking around, you just don't need to be afraid. So, exposure is key. That's the main lesson here that I want to talk about. So, I just want to say that this is, again, personal advice, and this was how I got over my fear. And this might not be how you overcome your fear. So maybe this might not work on you because everyone has different levels of fear. So I would say that this is for people who have just this general fear of dogs that's not completely overwhelming, because of course there are some more serious levels, I believe. And in that way, maybe you might want to consider going to see a professional. Again, this is just my personal advice. So it might not work for everyone, but I think this will work for a lot of people because it just generally, in every phobia, exposure is the way that you get over it. So once again, I just want to make sure this is clear. This is not professional advice. This is going off from my own experience and having to deal with this. I deal with this myself. I know what it feels like. I know the heart racing feeling. I know the fear. I know how you just wanna run, but you know you can't because it's just not you shouldn't do that, right? But I know how this feels, and I've been there, and I've done that, and I got over my fear, and you can too. Promise you, this isn't something that's gonna affect you for the rest of your life if you are afraid. I really, really hope this video helps you a lot, and I do hope that maybe this will encourage you to go and try to interact with some dogs. Again, it's gonna be intimidating at first, you're not going to want to, but once you kind of get that motivation and you see a small dog and maybe you take it baby steps, right? One step at a time, go pet a small dog and then slowly work your way up to maybe even playing with some dogs off leash, right? Take it at your own pace. And I hope that you can slowly get over your fear or maybe even just get over your fear at once, depending on how bad it is. Just let them sniff you, slowly ease yourself into that knowledge that nothing will happen to you. So I hope this video, or not video, sorry, this episode really, really helped you, and I hope this helps you get over your fear of dogs. Please follow me or stick around to see more. And if you want to follow Ruby's YouTube channel, I think I have a link for that. So you can go check that out. Also her Instagram. So yeah, I do hope this video helped you a lot. Again, this is my personal advice. Take it at your own pace, and I hope this was a very educational video. And have a great day or an amazing night or a good morning. Bye!